Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse podcast. My name is Mark Pavlich, and far, far away in the Grove, everybody. One of my all-time favorite people. Also, most people don't realize this, but we don't really see each other in person that much anymore. But, ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show, the one and only Jesse Martineau.
Yo, what up?
What up?
We're rolling today.
We are.
With Burt Watson joining us in a little bit. But, first, I just want to say that congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yes.
Stanley Cup champions. I mean, hey, Las Vegas becoming the sports capital of the world.
Jesse, pretty soon, man, we're going to be looking for real estate there because you got to admit, you got the Raiders, you got F1 coming. Listen, you know what the funny part about F1 is? Besides Max Verstappen being such a don right now, you literally got to think to yourself, what are they not going to have? They're going to have the NBA soon too. You know they are.
Oh yeah, they will.
And then of course they're going to have baseball.
Yeah, they got it.
They got it, but they're just going to do the whole, get it all done.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy, Jesse? Think about that for 1 second. The weather's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's dry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Besides
about 1 or 2 months a year, you could go to Canada and vacation, because it's so hot. But the rest of the time, it's like at worst, you're wearing a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And listen, let me tell you, I spent there when I was a kid, and as Mano and I vacation there quite often. I absolutely love the city of Las Vegas. And people go, oh, how can you love the city of Las Vegas? Well, I'm not going to live on the Strip.
Yeah.
I want to be up in Summerlin, in Red Rock, up there in that area. And I'm telling you, Jesse, when you're going to have NHL hockey, NFL football, NBA basketball, the best entertainment in the world, if you're a golfer, forget about it. There's a million golf courses. It's just, to me, that I can actually say right now at the age of 56 years old, 55, that I am going to retire in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yes, official.
You heard official.
It here. No one will stop it. Mano will agree with me on this. We will, we'll have brunch at the Wind. We'll go to Encore for dinner. We'll go, this is what we'll do. And I'm telling you, Jesse, I don't know, people because they live on the Strip, they walk up and, how many times I walked up and down the Strip once when I was a kid? When I'm an adult, you don't walk up and down the street like a dummy with those stupid big long drinks and stupid shit like that. We don't do that. We go to the best restaurants. We see the greatest shows. The best concerts in the world go there. They just don't go there. They have residency there. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. Once you get hooked up in that city, if I can get hooked up in Las Vegas like I do in Edmonton, forget about it. That's where I'm going to retire.
Wow, it is. It's pretty awesome. And all those sports things, they're pumping AC and they're like crazy. So it doesn't even matter for those guys. I'm pretty sure they're making a dome for the
baseball.
But yeah, we'll be right back, everybody, on the Me and Jesse podcast with our guest, Burt Watson.
Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavlich and Jesse Martineau. Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse podcast with Mark Pavlich and Jesse Martineau.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse podcast. I am Mark Pavlich, across the way in the Grove, the big, sexy Jesse Martineau. And ladies and gentlemen, and the thousands and thousands and thousands that are going to watch this show, one of my all-time favorite human beings. Forget about people, human beings. Philadelphia, PA, stand up for me right now. Stand up for me right now. The only one, the one and only, Burt Watson on the show today.
Yeah, baby. All night long.
Yeah.
Welcome
Yeah.
to the show. We're super happy to have you. When Mark said you were coming on, he's like, "This is the greatest hype man of all time in the history of sports."
Well, the pleasure is mine, and I will take all the flowers I can now, baby. Trust me.
Yeah, you know what the great part about it now is, Bert, is that I don't have to give people flowers unless I want to. So in my life now, at my age, I know I still look young, but I'm old. And people say it all the time. They like, when I'm complimentary to certain people that we're having on our show, it's because I want them on my show. I don't need to have anybody on our show. Jesse and I, most people say, I love it when it's just the two of you talking and you guys talk, about whatever you want to talk about. And I say, no, but when we have certain guests on, they're on for a certain reason. And Bert, you're on for a certain reason. You know what I mean? Because I used to tell this all the time. When I was in the MMA business, you and I started at the exact same time in MMA. 1999. I started the MFC in 1999. You started with the UFC in 1999.
Yes, sir.
What happened then was I ended up getting Jason McDonald, as I owned the MMA organization in Canada. And at that time, there was only 2 or 3 MMA organizations. I was the biggest one in Canada, but there was the UFC and there was some stragglers. The crazy part was I got Jason McDonald in the UFC. And so we went over to the UFC, and one of the first people I ever met was you. And it was so bizarre. And then the connections are bizarre too, because I grew up in Windsor, Detroit. Most people don't know that. And I used to hang out at Kronk Gym, and when I walked into Kronk Gym one day, they were all laughing at me. And Emmanuel Stewart said, "Hey, white boy, I think you're lost." And I said, "No, I ain't lost." And then there was, Michael Moore, Tommy Hearns, all these guys were there. And I was like, maybe I do have the wrong gym, so true story.
Wow. That is unbelievable that you can go that far back. And you're exactly right. Because that was my intro into MMA. I had no idea, I was familiar, with Muay Thai and wrestling, I was familiar with that kind of stuff. And, I came from a boxing background, but when I was introduced to MMA, it was a total new world for me. And believe it or not, totally different people, but I met people such as yourself, and as we went along, and it was like anything else. I know the journey to get into the cage or get into the ring. I know the stuff that a guy goes through in the gym, and goes through with his family, and goes through with his trainers and his management and his girlfriend and the people that's looking to whoop his butt and want his shot in his spot. So knowing those things, I was able to put myself in a world where I knew where they were coming from.
Yeah. And
I always said to myself, and I'm going to be good to you guys. I'm not going to curse. I'm going to act myself and think that my grandma's watching this show. But I would always tell them, I can F with you, but I'll never let anybody else F with you, baby.
Yeah.
And that was just the way it went.
So what was the actual job role for the UFC that you got? Like, what was the actual title? What did they even really know fully what you were doing?
No, there was never.
No, they didn't know.
Never a title given to me, but they knew what it was that I did, because at the time that they came looking for me or talking to me, and at the time it was Dana White, and I was doing a lot of boxing out in Vegas. Kostya Zab, Judah.
That's right.
Oscar De La Hoya. I was doing all those boxing events, and I was a coordinator then.
Okay.
And my job was just putting stuff together and making sure everything was done, and press conferences. And I think I took on more than I was supposed to.
Yes.
But I didn't want to let anything go, because I wanted complete control. I don't know where the hell that came from, but I needed to have complete control. And the only way you can have control is if you put on your own pants.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You tie that belt yourself. So all of those things I did. So what they did was they sat with me and told me exactly what they were looking to do and how similar it was to putting on a boxing event. And they just said, you do what you do.
Correct.
And we won't get in your way. And that's exactly what they did.
Wow.
So you were considered like a site coordinator. That would be the title, right? Per se.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you were organizing everything. Like it was so funny because I was more enamel. Like I started in 1999 doing MMA, and the funny part was when I went to the UFC, I was never starstruck by anybody, nobody. Like because I started in the business. But the crazy part is I used to find myself watching you religiously. Like it was weird. And you know who else? Like Stitch. Stitch.
Yes. Yes.
Like those kind of people. It was bizarre. Like I was on TV shows with Dana. I've done things with him before. I never once in my life ever took a picture with him. I would cut my fingers off before I would ever do a picture with him. And you know what's funny? Bert? There was time, and even in my own organization, I had 200 UFC fighters fight for me. I never I never took one picture, Bert, with any of them. And you know what the crazy part is? If I bumped into you tomorrow and I bumped into Stitch tomorrow, I would ask you both. And like I would run to take a picture with Jesse. You know what I'm saying? Right here on our show. And if I saw you tomorrow, I would kill myself if I didn't ask you, hey, Bert, let's do a picture together. You know what I mean? Because it's weird to me, but I was thinking that today. I was reflecting and remembering all the stuff that I went through in the world of MMA. And I was like, man, I used to just watch you do your thing, man. And it was a real thing. And the crazy part was when you were out of the UFC, I thought to myself, I was like, what's wrong with people? Don't they understand who people are? Like, and that's who I was always baffled by that. And then when you're with Bellator, no offense to Scott Coker, no offense to Bellator, but I looked at my wife and I'm like, do they know who they have? Like, do they get it? Because I got it. Like I'm not very smart, but I'm like Einstein in the MMA world. But in the rest of the world, I'm not. So I would catch myself watching the people that I needed to watch. I used to watch the production people. And I would watch how you would do things, and I watched how you conducted yourself with people. You weren't sure you yelled "We Rollin' lots," but you never yelled at people.
No, heck no. Yeah, I always knew, as you and what you said is so true, because I'm a firm believer. It's not always the smarter man who knows it all, but the man who knows where to find it.
Yeah, right.
And if I can put my hand on it, I'm just as smart as you are. If you invented it. And it was always one of those things where fighters and people around me, once those things or fight week started happening, you ever cut a golf ball open? I don't know if it's still made the same. Yeah. But it goes, everything goes all over.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was if you didn't keep an eye on everything. And I kept that in my mindset. And it was better for me if I was in the ground at the grassroots. I was a grunt in the Marine Corps. I've been a grunt all my life, baby, and I wanted to stay that. And it made sense. It worked, and I was always at peace when people let me be at peace and do what I did the way I knew how to get it done, and it worked. It worked.
What was it like? Because
go ahead.
Well, because so many people they would recognize you and they know, but many people would watch the production or whatever, and they might not know. Well, who is this and what is he doing behind the scenes? How was it for you on those event nights where that day? Take us through briefly what everything entailed you when you woke up in the morning till production was done at the end of the day.
Well, during the course of the week, as I said, I wanted to have control of, and I needed to know exactly where everything was. I don't ever want to be in a position where anybody ever comes to me in the middle of an event and asks me for something that I didn't know.
Wow.
or asked me where was something and I didn't know where it was or how to get there.
Wow.
So I navigated myself through everything from the time. There was a time I used to book fighters' flights. I used to book their travel, air and ground transportation. I would book their hotel rooms because I needed to know that if you were fighting Jesse, that you guys weren't in a room next to each other.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
That you guys were on separate floors.
Yeah.
If I could put them in separate towers, I would do that because fighters, once they get in their rooms on the floor, during the course of the night, the doors are wide open. They're in and out.
That's
if
right.
They know somebody's in another room across. So the interaction's always going. So I had to make sure that I knew where each fighter was strategically, and they weren't too close, that if my eyes weren't on them, then you'd get a fight before the fight. Yeah. So those things I meticulously kind of paid attention to. I checked the schedule. I checked the time they were coming in, who was riding with who was in the car, picked up at the airport, what time they arrived. And I made sure that everything was done so that the only time those guys ever had to face each other was at a weigh-in.
Yeah.
Now, that was hard to do, but it happened.
What happened? Was there any times where it didn't happen? Was there any times that things fell through?
I don't ever. I think there's one guy, and I'm going to mention names. I'm old enough now to mention names.
Yeah, you can.
His name was War Machine.
Oh yeah. He's in jail. He's in jail now anyway, so it don't matter.
Really?
Yeah.
But he was the only time I ever had a situation with a fighter that I figured I had to go in another direction because he was on a.
Yeah.
But once they saw we were in total control of what was going on, and they didn't come to you and get one answer and go to somebody else and get another answer and it was right, then they followed exactly what you laid down for them. So from the time they arrived to where their rooms were, the workout rooms, I would set up workout rooms, make sure the mats were clean, that the rooms had mats, they had sufficient towels and water, the temperature was right, the door was unlocked, the mats were clean, I tried to make sure that the workout rooms were not next to a banquet room where there was a banquet going on the next night or the same night.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you something. A fighter's going to walk out of his workout room into that banquet and get something to eat and sit down at the table. Okay? and not even think about it. Yeah. And I know that. So those are also the things that I navigated through and made sure that I had a general idea of what else was going on in the hotel and where it was and how it was, strategically placed from where we had to be. And then the PR department would create times for the press conferences and the interviews. And I had to make sure that the entire schedule for the week was given to the fighter. And the only way I made sure of that is that if I did it, eye to eye, face to face with everybody.
What about Bellator now? Is it the same role with Bellator? Same role. Same
exact thing, except there are more people doing the check-in. Fighters come in now, the first thing I do, I check everybody's weight. Because two things I don't want you to do is be late for anything and don't make weight.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is check weight because guys and a lot of the public don't know. Some of them do if you're familiar with MMA, but guys will come in needing to lose anywhere between 10 and 15 pounds in a week.
Jeez.
That has happened. The most I've ever seen is 29.
Me too.
29.
29. Oh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
wow.
Yes, sir. 29 pounds. And guess what? And he did it.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. I'll leave that one alone.
Okay.
But and he did it. But I would make sure that they had the schedule, they knew the schedule, and that there were and knowing and coming from boxing, fight week, if a guy needed to lose 5 pounds, the fight might not happen.
Wow.
It was a major.
Yeah, boxing's much different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for boxing. So when I got to MMA and saw a guy come in with 10 pounds, I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
How the hell you gonna do that? And they did it. At that point, I knew that I was the one that had to change.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did. So I knew I had to specifically make everything detailed so that there was no excuses for them not to make weight.
Wow.
I even check if I got a scale right now. This cell phone, an average cell phone, a 10 or 13 weighs 0.4 or half a pound. If you ever put it on the scale, if I put this on a scale and it says 0.4 or 0.5, I'm pretty sure that the accuracy is going to be pretty good from there. If I put it on a scale and it says 1.6, something's wrong.
Problem.
Right.
Then I'm out. And I do that meticulously with each scale to make sure the scales are right. And everybody comes in and says, oh, is the scale calibrated or the scale certified? And that's two different things.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
When a scale is calibrated, that means the scale's broken and it needs to be fixed. When a scale is certified, that means Burt Watson has put his phone on that scale and it's 0.4 or 0.5.
That's right.
You know, calibrated means fixing. So those things I do, and even now with Bellator, still the same thing. I check every single fighter. The last fight we had, 15 fights, you know, that's 30 fighters.
Yeah.
And I check everyone eye to eye, you know, and I get them, make sure I know where the sauna is, you know, that we have portable saunas or regular saunas or salt for them, Epsom salt or whatever they use in the bathtub to make weight. And I check weight every single day. I used to do it in the morning from 9 to 11 and then at night from 4 to 6. But now I've given them a little bit of a break because they know I was going to do it. So I check every day now from 4 to 6. And I do that purposely because if the weigh-in's Thursday and Wednesday night, I see a guy needs to lose 8 pounds, then Thursday morning, I will check that guy. If the weigh-in Thursday is at 9 o'clock, I'm going to check that guy Thursday morning at 6 a.m. He's going to meet me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can see by that time, if his weight is 4 to 5 pounds, and at that time I can go to the matchmaker and I can say, listen, here's where we are with this, so that it doesn't get to a point, and I know you've seen it, Mark.
Yeah.
You get to a weigh-in and the guy gets on a damn scale and he looks at you. Why the hell are you looking at me?
Yeah.
It's not me that's wrong with that scale.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I don't want. So
Wow.
I do that weigh-in day, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. That'll give them an hour and a half or 2 hours to either lose that pound, abuse that pound,
That's
or
right.
we change it around and make it happen.
I can remember we at the UFC one time when Jason McDonald was fighting Wilson Govea. Govea was over 20 pounds. So Dana White and Joe Silva at that time were in the back, and they said, and with the commission from Nevada, and they said, Mark, come here for a second. And I go backstage and they go, okay, what if he goes and loses 10 pounds? Will you not take away this much of his purse? I looked at Dana White and Joe Silva. I said, I don't know if you guys know. I don't give a shit if he loses 4 pounds, 6 pounds, 10 pounds. If he's not of weight, we're taking his money, all of it, like the percentage that we agreed upon. But they were trying to negotiate like points off the back end. And I told them, I said, what are you guys kidding me, right? And the commission guy's looking at me and he started to laugh. He goes, oh, I read your paper, Mark, in 2001, because I was talking about that back in the day before any of these commission people were around. And as Bert, you would know, most commission people were not MMA people. They were people from boxing that decided to switch over to doing that, just like you know, Bert, everybody knows I'm the first person that ever said, don't leave it to the judges. I used to make a joke about it back in 1999 because all the judges were all from boxing. So if you went on the ground for 4 seconds, they didn't know how to judge the fight, right? And as time went on, it's all changed. It's got a lot better. It's still not perfect, but it's got a lot better.
You were the one that said never leave it to the judges. I was
Correct.
the one that added because they only make you cry.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah. But it's funny because my friends, everybody in
good.
Canada knows that I came up with the saying, and now Dana quotes it to everybody like he came up with it. But we don't care. But the moral of the story is, I used to tell everybody, don't leave it to the judges because the judges are all from boxing. You know what I mean? So they didn't know the MMA game at the time. And when I used to go to Vegas, they would bring the commission out to talk to me because they knew I knew the rules better than most commissions. And I was like, I was laughing. I'm like, the guy's 20 pounds over. We're gonna still fight him. But the point is, we're taking all the 20% or whatever it was. You know,
Brother. And you know, I honestly remember that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that, and I don't know if you remember, Travis Lutter fought Anderson Silva.
That's right.
And I said, you know what? This will never happen to Burt Watson again. From that point on, that's when I started 2 times a day,
Wow.
weigh-in day, early morning, because those two were the most hurtful things to me. Because they came back and they looked at me.
Yeah.
I said, you know what?
Yeah.
They're never gonna look at me again.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't think in the last, I'll say 3-4 years, I think I've had one person not make weight.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow.
Well, Bert, I'm so sick that I actually had Travis Lutter and Wilson Govea come fight for me after. They both fought for me after, and I told both those pricks, I go, you better make weight, both of you. Like,
wow, and that's crazy that I said those 2 guys,
Yeah.
those in 2 different fights, and
I remember them. I remember
Luger was a title fight.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
You know,
crazy.
he's gonna fight for a title. So,
How do you do that? Like, how does that happen?
Well, because somebody didn't watch it.
They just let
Somebody
it go.
took their eyes off of it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And that's how I feel. You know, I always feel if I take my eyes, it's like, you know, you don't put a child in the crib, put candy in it and tell him not to eat it. That's not gonna,
You're right.
Good. Yeah.
it's not gonna happen. Okay.
No.
And to tell these guys, you know, you got to make weight, but I'm not gonna watch you do it. No. If I'm around and it's on my watch, I'm gonna make weight with you. And I tell them that.
That's right.
Say, I'm gonna let you know, baby. You know, I know how hard this is for you, but I'm gonna do everything I can to help you make that weight. Because I can tell you, I'm gonna feel worse than you if you don't make that weight.
Yeah.
You know, and so I make weight with them. I'm there. I check every day. I check every night. I make sure the scale's right. And you know, I do that little scale test in front of everybody. I let everybody see that, and I'm secure enough that I'll say, you know what? Let's go, because very, very seldom do you or should you let a guy go in one workout room and weigh himself, go in another workout room.
I agree.
Because even if it says the same thing, the fighter's never gonna say it said the same thing.
No.
Exactly.
One of them gonna be wrong. But
Bert, how did you get involved, like, in your lifetime? Like, you did so many cool things, and the one thing that I it stands out to me, because this is my era of boxing that I was obsessed with, that you managed Joe Frazier, like, and I know other people have asked you this question on certain shows, but the funny part is most of those people don't know zero about that era like I know. And what I'm trying to tell you is that era to me was I obsess in my mind that I was actually there, and I was never there.
yes, it was. I'll tell you something, man. It was the craziest thing you could ever imagine happening to somebody. Happened to me with Joe Frazier. Just a total chance meeting once and meeting again in Philadelphia. My niece got married, and a radio personality who knew my mom gave my niece a present of a limousine for her wedding. The limousine pulls up to my house, and my nephew comes and says, Uncle Bert, the limo's outside. I said, well, you go tell that limo to park the car. Park up the street someplace, but don't get away from us. He goes outside, he comes back in. He says to me, he says, Uncle Bert, you know that guy? He looked familiar, that limo driver. I said, okay. I just didn't pay any attention. And then my
Sure.
niece was taking along. I went outside to tell the driver to move. That time there were tinted windows. He rolled that window down, and it was Joe Frazier.
Driving the
Wow.
limo.
You couldn't make that up.
You could not.
couldn't.
You
It
cannot.
was Joe
You
Frazier
cannot.
driving the limo. He looks at me, and I look at him, and in my head, I'm like, "There's no damn way that this is Joe Frazier." I know it was his limo company, and then I said to him, "What the hell are you doing driving this limo?"
Yeah, exactly.
And Joe was he liked to tinker with things.
Yeah.
You know, Joe was the type of guy that we drove every place we went. And if we got in the car and we drove from Philadelphia to Florida, which was 13, 18 hours or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's far. That's far.
By the time we got from Philadelphia to North Carolina, Joe would have taken the radio out, okay, and managed to put it back in wrong. That's the kind of guy he was.
Wow.
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 So he had this limo service, and he came in the day of my niece's wedding, and he picked up the clipboard, and all the drivers had to sign in. And he saw that the guy that was driving my niece's wedding didn't sign in. He went in the back room, got in the keys, got in the car, and drove
Wow.
Oh,
to the
himself. Wow.
That's
that
incredible.
was from that point on, it was no longer my niece's wedding. Okay, I forgot my niece was getting married. Because when they put her in the car, I sat
Rap.
with Joe.
Yeah.
She walked into church. I'm standing next to the car talking to Joe.
Now, where was Joe in his career at this point? Where was he at in his career?
That was just after is it Jumbo Cummings? Joe was just about finished his career.
Okay.
Wow.
And yeah, this was late 70s,
Okay.
late 70s, early
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, you know, we just kind of kept going and kept going. At the time, Marvis was fighting
Yeah.
or beginning to fight.
Okay.
Joe Jr., who was the best
That's right.
fighter out of all of them, was also, and Tyrone Frazier. He had 6 family members fighting at one time.
Jeez.
Wow.
So we just kind of, you know, started talking and, you know, going out drinking and talking and drinking and talking. And long story, I just got to a point where I said to Joe one day, I said, "You know what? You're gonna either have to hire me or leave me the hell alone, because I can't go out drinking no more."
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
No.
He gave me a job.
Wow, that is
Wow.
incredible.
Wow.
That is a true story. And from that point on, you know, you walked into Joe's office, and I'm looking at your wall there, your background.
Yeah.
That's what his office looked like. The
Oh.
wall. But the whole wall was Muhammad Ali going down from Joe's left hook.
Oh. Wow. Wow.
That was that whole wall. And my chair was in front of that figure.
Wow.
And I sat down in that chair, and that was it.
See,
That
Bert,
was
we're connected. I don't have any sports paraphernalia in my home, and because my wife's very chic with the decor of our home. But I do have in my desk, in the front of my desk, the other side of this equation. I have Muhammad Ali's signed gloves in my desk right in front of me. And I loved them when they both fought each other. I've watched I've watched every fight of Joe Frazier. I've watched every fight of Muhammad Ali. And the only time I was obsessed with Muhammad Ali, but the only time I didn't like him, there was times in press conferences, there was times in walking around where he was belittling Joe. And and that's the only time, because I loved Ali's bravado. I loved Ali's swagger. I loved Ali's boxing skills. I loved everything about him. And then when he fought Joe, and there were some people I liked it. When he fought certain people and he was like that with them, I thought they deserved it, right? But Joe was different. They didn't need to do that. Like, he didn't need to do that with Joe because it was such an iconic thing where they could have just talked about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and we don't care, man. We just want to. These two are so great. And my dear friend Eddie Hallaby, yells at me every time I say Ali because he's a Joe Frazier guy, and
My man.
he said to me one time, because we used to all box together, and he'd say to me, Mark, I don't know how you love Ali so much. The way he treated Joe Frazier on a constant basis, he said it was disgusting, it was deplorable. And then we get into the debate. You imagine a bunch of white guys sitting around talking about this era. It's crazy. Like,
It's funny you say that, because it wasn't a fact that Joe didn't like Ali.
That's right.
Or didn't like what he did. Joe just felt disrespected culturally.
Correct.
As a black man, he felt disrespected.
Correct.
And that whole thing just kind of, from that point on, once you feel that, there was no turning back.
There's not.
There's not. Because then the news media got a hold of it. Maybe not that part of it, but they got a hold of how intimidating Ali was with that vibrato.
Yeah.
And they just kept pouring on. You see that picture right there?
Yeah.
That's Ali.
Yeah.
That's his signature. That was me and him sitting in a room.
Wow.
That's signature. This one here, that's Joe Frazier, me, Marvis, and Joe's trainer Lester.
Wow.
And those are, and that one over there was Leroy Neiman.
Oh.
That was his first that he did, and that's Joe signed it and Muhammad's got it. And I'm going to. I don't. This is my little man cave, and I keep all my memorabilia.
Yeah, sure.
Trophies in here, but that era, history has a way of making you a part of it without you asking.
Yeah. That's
it just
right.
does it to you.
Yeah.
And to never in my, I knew it was because it was on television.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was in the theaters, and it was everywhere and talked about. So I knew how big it was. But did I know that it was going to be as big a history as it is? I mean, everything today that involves sports, period, everybody equates it. You got to do Frazier Ali.
Yeah.
Whether it's hockey, whether it's tennis,
I totally agree.
Football,
I totally agree.
Basketball, whatever it is,
Yeah.
somehow along the way, somebody says it's like Frazier Ali,
Yeah.
and right away
But Bert, don't you think that's Bert? You know what I think now? I think people try to do it, and I think people in MMA, and I think it's disgusting. I don't even believe and I can say their names because I'm not in that business anymore. But I'm saying when I watch them do it, I think it's a disservice to the real people that knew how to do it. And when you see the Colby Covingtons of the world, it's like cringeworthy. It's not real. There's not, I don't buy it. I don't get it. Shale did it for a while. He did it close to that. He did it different.
He did it a little different. Yeah. And I hear it, and when I hear guys like Colby and whoever it is, I just kind of chuckle a little bit because I know, often imitated, never duplicated.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I hear it all the time, and I know where it's coming from because I saw it go through that in tennis with McEnroe and Borg and
Connors, all of them.
Connors.
Yeah.
It started. It just kind of became a thing. So I see it now and I hear it, but I in my head I know that it's as much entertainment as it is athleticism. It is as much entertainment today because the networks and the promoters and the promotions today, they sell that entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Bert, we had on our show AJ McKee, and as fighter wise, I think he's phenomenal. But he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to sell it. He doesn't want to do that stuff. Now, his father was on our show before too, and his father's he was kind of past his prime, but he fought in my MFC. Now, what's funny? When he fought in other organizations, he was boring. He didn't talk. I walked by him one day and I said, listen, if you want to go to the UFC ever, because Dana White said he'd never put him in the UFC. I said, Antonio, I guarantee you, if you become the champion of my organization and you listen to what I'm telling you, my bravado owning the MFC was not made up. I was the defiant younger brother. That was my role. So when people would ask me questions about Dana White, I'd say, who? And they'd see, and I go, you mean DW? And they go, you mean Dana White? I go, listen, my media guy's going to tell you, if you say his name one more time, I'm going to hang up the phone. I want to talk about the MFC, the Maximum Fighting Championship, nothing else. That's who I am. And so I created this character of being mad all the time. No profanity. Not once did I ever swear on an interview. Not once did I basically like talk about people's wives or, things like that, or religions. I didn't need to, Bert. I just was mad. And I put it across to everybody, and it made me a lot of money. And I retired on my own terms from this business. But the funny part is when I talked to Antonio McKee, I told him, bro, you're from the streets. Bring that to MMA. But his son won't do it. He just won't. AJ won't do it.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough to bring that out of a guy if it's not in there. Because then when you pull it, you're gonna pull the wrong thing out of there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Then you're gonna pull some shit you don't want, and then you're like,
that's Colby Covington. They pulled the wrong string, and it didn't work. It didn't work.
And man, I see the pictures with all the girls and the women. You know what? I understand, as I said, the entertainment portion of it. And now, you know what? These guys, from a marketing standpoint, that's what advertisers and marketing people pay for. They want that personality. They want somebody that's going to, they don't want you that every word comes out of your mouth is an MF.
That's right.
But it should be on the other side,
that's
but it's I've seen it as you've seen it. And when I first started in 1999, coming from boxing and having worked with Tyson and De La Hoya and Joe Frazier and Sugar Ray Leonard and Camacho, working with those guys, I saw the growth and how it was at the highest level. And I can tell you, when I saw the development of MMA in a year and a half,
crazy.
I knew it had legs.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? And here it is 24 years later, and it hasn't reached the peak, but I think it's the fastest growing sport I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Are you traveling the same level as you used to travel with the UFC? Are you traveling that much still?
Not as much. I just went to Paris with Bellator, and we did a show last weekend in Chicago. I don't do as much as I used to. I mean, the most I did at that point, I think, was 34 shows in a year. It was 34 shows in a year.
Still a lot. Yeah.
To know that I left them in 2015.
Yeah.
So that was a year ago, and at 34.
Have you ever bumped into Dana White since that time?
Once. Not bumped in. Once they had an event in Atlantic City.
Okay.
And believe it or not, my wife wanted to go to the event.
She did.
My wife wanted to go see it. I called my man Tony, and they gave us tickets, and we went, and we had good seats, good tickets. And he came over. The first thing he did, he spoke to her, and he spoke to me. And I left that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody said the wrong thing to me, and I reacted. So that's always been in my head. And
what's been in your head? What's been in your head?
That I was the one that left that situation.
Correct.
That situation didn't get rid of me.
But no regret. There's no regret. No.
My only regret is the money.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only regret is the money.
Yeah.
But where I've gotten to right now, and especially right now being at this level with Bellator and still providing Burt Watson and still being allowed to be Burt Watson,
fantastic,
and to build on my legacy. And you know, you were talking about taking pictures. Just over the last 5 years or so, I started taking pictures because I'm winding down, and I know I'm winding down, baby.
Yeah.
And when I do, just like those photos I got back there,
sure.
I've got photos now of Anderson Silva on his debut, Matt Hughes on his debut.
Crazy.
You know, you see that picture back there, Rampage.
Yep.
Yeah. He was on our show last week. All
these kids. I just did Bellator 297, Sergio Pettis.
Oh, yeah.
I met Sergio when he was 10.
Wow.
Something crazy like that, because his brother was
Anthony.
I think, you know, his brother was getting ready to fight or getting ready to make his pro debut.
Yeah.
So Sergio was 10 or 12 or something like that. And to see him last weekend as a man winning a title.
Wow, that's
crazy.
Cool.
You know, I'm looking at him, man. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
But then, hell, I got a birthday coming up, and I know how old I am. So
how old are you gonna be?
75.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah, nice.
So
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've heard a rumor that you don't like flying.
Oh, I'm afraid to death of heights. Afraid to death.
But you have to fly a lot.
Where'd you hear that, Jesse? Where'd you hear that? Did you hear that on the street, Jesse? Where'd you hear that?
Yeah. You know what I do, Jesse? I make sure number one, I don't sit too far back in the plane.
Okay.
I make sure I get a window seat so I can shut the shade. When I shut the shade, that shuts me in.
I got you. Yeah.
And I do whatever I have to do. I take a sleeping pill, whatever. But I'm definitely. We did a show in Paris. The last show we did in Paris. Yeah. They had the weigh-in and the press conference in the Eiffel Tower. Right.
Okay. Oh no. Yeah. Did they really?
That's cool, actually. That's cool. Actually.
That is cool.
Yeah, well, they had the press conference last week in Chicago in that whatever that
Sears Tower
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I see y'all. I am definitely. I cannot go on an escalator. You know, like the escalator that goes up. S2. I couldn't. I got in. I was in Toronto, I think, or one of them, and we got on the elevator, and I was actually I never stayed past 10. I'm not gonna go past the 10th floor.
Oh,
okay, I see. Yeah.
So you're walking it. If it's
no. I got in the elevator and I think I was on the 9th or the 8th floor, but the elevator went to 2 and shot outside. It was on the outside of the building.
Oh, yeah.
I fell on the floor, man. I was crying like I was 12. Man, it was the worst experience of my life.
What happened?
Was there no idea that elevator was going to shoot outside?
Dude, what happened? Why is this always been, or did you have a situation when you were a kid?
Always since I think in the Marine Corps. I went to Nam. Before Nam, I did a med cruise on the 6th Fleet, and I was with the 3rd Marine Division. Wow. And we had Hueys that left and deployed the ships and would deploy Marines off the ship. We had a Huey, and you know Hueys are opened in the back.
Yeah,
it's a helicopter that opens in the back, and that helicopter went up and tilted, and about 7 of us fell out.
No.
How high were you?
Well, we had just straight up off of the ship. And it was an aircraft carrier.
So you fell in the water?
Yes.
How high were you when you fell?
Well, those are how tall are those?
I'd say maybe about 10 stories up. Maybe I'm not.
Holy
so you have PTSD right now from that experience. 100% you do.
I'm gonna tell you.
You remember that experience like yesterday.
Well, after that, I was never on another elevator. I was definitely afraid of heights. I was, the worst time of my life was having to finish that cruise on that ship.
Yeah.
Because it was an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, you're up there.
And when you went up on the aircraft, it was all the way open.
Yeah.
I always felt like this.
Wow.
So when you were when you fell out of the helicopter, you were that high and you fell into the ocean.
Well, yeah, because it went up off the ship and did one of these numbers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because
when
if you
it did
fell
one
on
of
the deck,
these
you wouldn't
numbers,
be here right now.
Oh my God.
You know, and I'm like, whoa.
So you
And
were
then-
in the water and they fished you out?
Yes. Yeah, it was about 6 of us, and luckily it was not that far away. It was far enough away from the ship, because if it was a little closer, I guess we might have probably
Got
gotten
pulled
sunk
in. Yeah.
under.
Yeah.
Yes,
know,
that's right. That's right.
With whatever, because there's 10 feet of ship in that water. Well, not 10
Under.
stories.
10
Under.
stories.
Yes, 10 stories.
Under, yeah.
That you don't see in the
Under the
there's-
water.
So
Yes,
no
sir.
one died. No one died.
No, no.
Wow, that is
No.
But that's the one. That's the thing that put you
That'll
over
do
the
it.
top, though.
100%.
Now I get
100%.
it. Now I get it.
Oh,
100%.
man.
I was done.
See,
I
you
was
don't
done.
have a fear of dying. You have a fear of that.
No height. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I know I'm gonna die,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
and I can't control that. But I control going
Yes.
up to the 13th
That's
floor,
right.
or
Interesting.
getting on an elevator, or
You know who else said that? John Madden. John
Yes.
Madden bust all over the states.
I if I had to, if I didn't find that I was able to get, I want to say first class seats, because I won't sit past 7, and then I had to sit by the window. If I couldn't do that,
You're
I
not
wouldn't get
going.
on the plane. No,
You're
sir.
not going.
Wow.
No, sir.
Wow.
If
wow.
I
I
gotta
used to-
walk past,
Bert, I
Okay.
remember being at the UFC and
Mm.
flying back to Canada, and I remember watching you pace
Oof.
up and down at the actual airport. And one day I asked you, you won't remember, it was 100 years ago, and I said, Bert, what are you doing here? What time is your plane leave at, or whatever? And you're like talking like you weren't Bert, you were somebody different, and you were kind of like really not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
weird. It was super weird.
yeah, and I'm always like that, because and for you just to say that, people know it, but really don't know how bad that is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
know it was
the-
this bad. I didn't know it was
The
this
worst
bad.
thing is that the older you get, the worse it is.
Wow.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's worse now than it's ever been. But I have more control of it now than I ever did.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to go and past 10. I don't have to go to a press conference on the top of the Eiffel Tower or the Sears building
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever they is.
Yeah.
I don't have to go zip lining or all
Yeah,
that
no.
other stuff.
No.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, we really know
Well,
the
that-
truth now.
Yeah,
Like,
that
this is the
that
real.
makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going up off of a diving board.
No way.
because no, that ain't happening.
It's just, so we got this fear. Is there any other things that people don't know about?
That is about it.
Yeah.
I have that fear of height. Death I don't worry about. Getting old I don't worry about, because I've gone past that.
Yeah.
Once I got to 65 and I saw that I'm still moving like I'm moving and I'm still
Mhm,
rolling,
mhm.
and honestly, my family has a history. Most of the men in my family never made it past 65.
Wow.
Oh, heart
Wow.
problems?
Not until I got older that I realized my dad didn't make it. His brothers didn't make it.
Wow.
My mom's brothers didn't. None of them made it past 65.
Do you think your movement, has saved you? Meaning like you're moving all the time. You're moving all the
100%.
time. You're moving all the time. And that's what I notice is that people that have had that in their history, I've seen now they've changed, they've kind of flipped the script on that, and it seems
Yeah.
like you have too.
But you know what? There's a lot. I mean, I drink Grand Marnier straight.
Still,
Still,
Yep.
Wow.
I don't drink
That's so
beer.
sweet. That's so sweet.
Yeah. I don't drink any other liquor. I don't eat fried foods. I try to maintain, and I'm 2 years cancer free.
Oh,
I went
wow.
through that and didn't even know I had it and didn't even know how to get rid of it. Took
Wow.
radiation and boom.
Wow.
Wow.
But yes, if I think the fact that I stay active and I'm it's perpetual motion.
You are perpetual motion. Yeah.
It just kind of, that's why I'm getting ready to hit that big birthday. And I think I'll be all right. But there's nothing. The only fear right now is that probably maybe ever getting to a point where I can't do this.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I can't imagine not being able to move the way I do and walk
Yes.
around with those guys and keep up with those guys.
And the energy you have.
And I'm not I don't have any degrees of belts or anything like that, but I train.
Awesome.
I kind of secretly, I got a couple of guys that that I go to the gym, and being in Philly, I'm sure you probably know who that is. But
Yeah.
I do it twice.
Are you
a week.
Philly guy? Are you a Philly guy with the NFL, with hockey, with all of it? Are you all
Everything.
Philly? You're a
100%.
all. You are
Down to the music.
Yeah.
down to the music. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes, sir.
For sure.
Down to me going someplace and somebody saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a Philly cheesecake." I say, "Right."
Yeah.
No way, man. No way.
Yeah. That is not a Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah.
That's a name, Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah. They just put that there. Yeah.
I am all Philly. I am all Philly.
Wow.
I try not to, get to kind of follow the sports, because you can follow a sport, man, and become addicted.
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy. When
Absolutely.
they lose, and the last thing I need is somebody else to make me say it.
Yeah.
Ain't that the
I
truth?
like it. I like
To
it.
Ain't
ruin
that the
my
truth?
day.
Yeah, that's
I
so
can do
true.
that myself.
That's
I don't
so
need
true.
to be sad because the Sixers didn't make it to the playoffs,
That's right.
or the Eagles, even though I get a little, but not that much. But
Yeah, wow.
just enough just to kind of enjoy sports. But people enjoy our sport more now than anything. And I'm always surprised at the people I see that show up at events and that love events and like events, and it's just, some of the people I know personally now, I would have never
Yeah.
known
Yes, yeah.
before,
That's right.
and it's because of this sport, and they like this sport,
Yeah.
and they were there, and and they give me their cell numbers,
Yeah. Bert, if there's,
I'm-
there, you're living an incredible life, and from the military to Joe Frazier to huge success in the MMA world. But let's go, like, to leave everyone with something, because we're gonna let you go soon. But to leave everyone with, like, the thing in your life that you would give us as advice, like, you've been through it, you've gone through the stuff. You said, like, I didn't get degrees, but I was there at the right time and I did these things. If there's something you could leave and impart with everyone watching, what would that theme or advice be?
Well, I tell everybody to, especially when I talk to guys, to treat your life like you do your love life. Put that same kind of energy into your life the way you do, you're chasing a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're chasing money, or you're chasing, you get so creative with things. And I try to tell people, I can't say that to a woman, but I can say it in a different way.
Yeah.
Use the same type of creativity that you do in trying to get around things as you do getting through things.
Nice.
Because the bottom line is that, again, it's not always the smarter man who knows it all, but the man who knows where to find it. And if you use that same energy that you do to chase things down, as you do being crooked or hood rat, as you, it works out for you.
Yes.
Wow.
Because life is never going to change, man. There's always going to be challenges. And there's always going to be things that you're going to have to do. And nobody likes to be told what to do. But you got to be told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, Bert, again,
Part 2 coming in
legendary-
November.
yeah.
Part 2 coming in November, baby.
Legendary, iconic, whatever. You could say all the words, insert all the words. Really, I think we just should start saying, hey, are you, that's very Burt Watson of you when someone does something epic or legendary. Because
Jesse, I'm starting that hashtag.
Yeah.
I'm starting that hashtag. I am. I swear to
because
God.
man, I honestly hearing the story, and I love hearing the stories, and even like opening up about the fear of flying, but the behind the scenes of that, like what was life like, and it's just so inspiring, and I'll personally take this conversation and remember it.
Please. And I appreciate you guys and Mark. I've known you a long time, and I still see that same energy that I always knew was there. And it shows that you guys, the one good thing that I see is that you guys listen.
Yeah, it's important.
And there's a lot. You can sit down with a lot of people that are probably going to tell you how to express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Opposed to listening to you.
Correct.
But your night, your fight did it right, baby. All night.
Leave us with one more. Let's roll.
You mean to tell me it's time to go to work? As long as you have me back, I'm going to come back. And that means it's time to go to work. And when it's time to go to work, baby,
What's up?
Everybody, Burt Watson, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Appreciate it, baby.
Yeah,
Thank
follow
you,
him on
my
all
man.
social media. It's
Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Unbelievable.
There we are.
I'm 75 years old, rolling like that.
Yep. Talk about
Incredible.
being a Don.
Yeah,
there's a guy that's,
exactly.
right?
Fantastic.
Well, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hey, remember, if you're needing glass, head over to crystalglass.ca, call 310-GLASS.
And don't forget, everybody, Backscape. You go to Backscape, which is B-A...
Oh,
hey!
back.
He's back by popular demand.
I didn't know whether I was supposed to go out of there or not.
You did it right.
Yeah, you did it right.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I appreciate it, guys. And
That's the first. That's the first.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
And don't forget, everybody, go to backscape.com. And don't forget, I don't know, ask Jesse, but is the Father's Day special still on?
It ends tonight, so you can head over to
It ends today, everybody. You can use the code DAD20. So go use the code DAD20. Go to Backscape, which is BAKSCAPE.com. Use the code DAD20. Get a little discount on your Backscape.
That's right. Well, everybody,
And trust me, they don't need to give you the discount, but they will give you the discount.
Well, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks so much, Bert, for joining us once again. That was awesome, actually, really awesome. And looking forward to part 2 with him. Hey, jeez, lots going on in the world.
Max is still the king.
Max is the king, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the golf stuff going on, and now though we're gearing up for the OTAs, and football's coming back in September. So
sure is.
So let's roll. That's Mark Pavlich. I'm Jesse Martineau. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at facebook.com/meandjesse.